Hi all, PWD or ProSoft Wireless Designer is a free tool from our website. You can find it in the download section of any of our radios. It's right here. Also in this section is IH Browser. IH Browser is our free configuration and monitoring tool that's really helpful for getting your network up and running after using PWD to design the layout. So we're going to use PWD right now to create a simple BOM, bill of materials. And then my colleague, Steve Purcell from our wireless field application engineering team is going to walk us through IH Browser to configure 2 wireless Ethernet radios to create a small network. And through this whole process, we'll show you how easy it is for us to get up and running ourselves. So let's check it out. Here we have ProSoft Wireless Designer. You start by determining if your application is indoor or outdoor. When you click outdoor, this tool adds a lightning protector and a weatherproofing kit for the connectors on the accessories. Let's choose indoors here to keep this application simple, and we'll leave it at network 1. Now we have to choose the radio technology that we're leveraging for our application. By this stage, we've already decided that we're using wireless Ethernet in our application or 802.11, but we can also use this tool to build a system with our cellular radios, which is awesome. So we'll go in here and we'll click on the RLX2 IHNF-A because this is one of our most popular products, leveraging the most popular technology in these types of applications. Then you can choose the region where your application will be installed. So this list is filtered by the in-country laws that this particular product that we just selected meets. So for example, you don't see Europe on this list. We have a special product for Europe. It ends in a -E as opposed to a -A that we selected. So let's click on North America and get started. So we can start here with the access point or the master. Oftentimes you need additional installation flexibility of the antenna location. So we can add 5 feet in this menu and jump right in. So we can go over, transition to the pick tool and double click on the radio. To bring us to this menu, there's a lot of information here, but one of the most important things that we can do from this menu is customize the accessories for your application for this site. By clicking on any accessory, you can find a list of all the available components we at ProSoft have for that section. So this is where our huge portfolio of antennas comes into play. So a huge benefit of our IHNF radio is that it offers MIMO capability. So we want to leverage that by choosing a MIMO omnidirectional antenna for the master. Let's choose this antenna right here with a gain of 2. So now we can create a new site for the client or the repeater. And again, we'll use the 5 feet between the antenna and the radio. Back to the pick tool. Now we can upgrade this antenna again to a MIMO antenna, but let's say this application's fixed. We're looking at the client here. So a directional antenna for the client may be more beneficial. And we can assume that this application has several clients, even though I'm just going to build one in this system. So we'll use this one here, 7 dB hybrid directional. We can click OK. Now we go to create the link between the master and the client to determine the status of that link. Let's say it's a 50-foot wireless system. And this tool is going to give you a green light. Double click on that. It'll give you an excellent reading for the signal strength. But what happens if you, in fact, want to create a 200-foot link? The link becomes weaker. You get a yellow flag. You have a poor signal. So this tool is really helpful in allowing you to go back and specify a stronger antenna for the application. But assuming everything's good, so we can go back and configure a stronger antenna. We can ensure that the radios are installed in a distance that gives you a good or better connection. But assuming everything's good, you can go to the parts list here and see everything you need for your application. And this tool is scalable. I did a small system here, only 2 radios, but you can do this with your entire application. It's really a great tool. If you're in a position where it's important for you to be able to specify your own networking components, please download it, start building some systems, explore all the things you can do. Don't hesitate to contact us if you have any questions. So I know overall, this was a really quick demo of this tool, but to tell you the truth, I feel it was enough for us to start getting our feet wet when specifying an industrial wireless system. The truth is, it is pretty easy to do. So now we can have Steve take us through how to configure these devices and how to establish that wireless connectivity. So let's transition here to Steve.
Welcome. My name is Steve Purcell. I am a field application engineer with ProSoft Technology, focusing mainly on our wireless products. Today I'm going to demo for you how easy it is to configure 2 of our access points to communicate to each other. Now today I'm going to be using our RLX2 IHA product. It's a 5 gigahertz high power access point, but the steps are going to be the same for either of the other 2 products in that family, the RLX2 IHG and the RLX2 IHNF. Also, during this demo, I will interchange the word access point, hotspot, and radio, probably even a few others. But I'm talking about the same device in all those cases, the RLX2 IHA in this case. So let's get started. This is the RadioLink's Industrial Hotspot Browser, or as we call it, the IH browser. This is a free piece of software that's available on our website. I will go through where to find that later on in this video. This is a great tool for troubleshooting, monitoring, just getting a good visual representation of your network. So your devices will show up here in your list, and we've got one connected right now. The binoculars icon right here will bring up the radio that's connected. And you can see a little bit of information about it. These are all set to factory default. So RLX2 repeater. This is the IP address that was brought up by my DHCP. So by default, it comes up enabled to look for a DHCP address. The MAC ID, and this is the SSID that comes out of the box, the default. So we're going to change all of this information. But first thing we can do from here is change the IP address. So if you wanted to be on a different subnet, or if your PC was on a different subnet, you could change the IP address from right here. So I'm going to go to 100 and click save. You'll get this message here, and this is just indicating that it is a DHCP connection. So once you power cycle that radio, you may be on a different IP. It'll go back to that DHCP. So you'll see now that the .100 shows up there, and from here we can open the radio's configuration web page. We can either double click on this list item, or we can right click on it and choose connect, and we're going to choose connect. So this will open a browser to the IP address of the radio, the .100 that we set up earlier. We'll log in with the default password, which is the word password, all in lowercase. That'll bring us to the configuration screen here. We're mainly going to be using the basic settings tab, so everything we'll do will be in here. But I wanted to show you quick, a little additional troubleshooting that these guys can do. The available parents button up here will show you any RF that is in the area. So you can use this to pick, the best channel that you want to be on. I have the checkbox set to only show the same SSID that I'm on. So if we uncheck that, we'll show, other RF that this radio can see. So the first one is my home Wi-Fi. You can see it's got a pretty good signal. And then the rest of them are just one's neighbors or whatever that they pick up. I apparently have a NASCAR fan and a couple of hidden SSIDs. So, these are relatively low signal strength, probably not going to interfere with our network, but it's a good thing to keep in mind when you're setting up your network. And you may want to avoid those channels just to kind of reduce the chances of any congestion once you get set up. So let's get setting this guy up. We're going to leave him as a repeater first. We're going to configure the repeater first. We'll just call him repeater for simplicity. SSID, we'll just call it demo SSID. Showing a little lack of creativity. We recommend you change the passphrase, so I am going to change this one to, it can be 8 to the 63 characters. I'm going to just go 1 through 8. Like that. And then move on over to the access settings. We can, it comes up by default, like I said, DHCP. We're going to pick this to be a static. We've already set the IP to the .100, so we can leave that there. We could have left it on the first step, but we set it there. So now we don't have to do anything, and we are ready to go. We can click Apply Changes, and the radio will reset. And when it comes back up, it'll take on those new changes. And from there, we'll go on and set up the master radio. Back into the IH browser now. If we do another scan, we will see the repeater that we just configured showing up. The name has been changed, the IP address, as well as the demo SSID. And the signal strength, you may notice, is -100. That is because there's no master or parent set up for this radio to link to. So it's not linked to anything at this time. It's just set up as a repeater. So what I'm going to do is disconnect this radio and plug into the master radio, which has also been set to defaults, the radio that we're going to configure as a master. And then we'll configure that one and we'll link them up. Okay, so I switched the cable over to the other radio. We'll do a clear and then a scan, and we'll see this is the new radio that we're going to configure. It's got a IP of .35, and so we're going to right click and change the IP address on this guy from here as well. And we're going to go just bump it up by 1 and go up to 101. So the repeater was 100 and the master now is going to be 101. So we'll get this message again. And from here we can open the web page as we did before, and let's go there now. So the browser will pop back open. We're now connected to the second radio. Log in with that default password again. And we've got the main screen here. Now we'll configure this guy as the master. So we've got master for the name, demo SSID, and this has to match what we configured the other radios for, or they won't link. Pick master on this one. And you may remember earlier when we were looking at the available parents, we saw there was some activity in the upper band here. 149 was the home Wi-Fi. So I'm going to bop down and set this one to 48. We'll come over here, set the security settings. And again, this has to match what the other radios are. And we'll set this to assure it uses a static IP, which it already came through because we set the IP address earlier. And that's all we need to do. There's no other configuration required on this radio. Click the apply settings and let it finish saving, and then we'll jump back into the IH browser and show you that everything linked up. So back on the IH browser again, we click the scan button and we now see that we've got two radios listed here, the master and the repeater with their IP addresses. We're plugged into the master radio, which is the 101, and you'll see the parent MAC ID here, which is that of the master radio. You see that right there. And the SSID is the same, and this is also the signal strength shown here, which is -58 for these two radios. So that shows us that they're configured and linked. So what we can do now is we're connected to 101, so I should be able to ping 192.168.1.100, which is the repeater radio, which I can, and further showing that they're linked. So we're configured and set up, and with just a few keystrokes, and the radios are up and linked. And if we had other devices beyond the repeater or the master, they could now see each other. So if we had PLCs or whatever on each end, they could now communicate and pass data between them.